Peace, everybody. I want to thank you for tuning in tonight to my second live of the relaunch of my channel, Into the Crisis, tonight. And in the future, these videos are going to be broadcasted not only on my channel, but as well as Team Osiris Reloaded. And tonight, I have the honor of interviewing a brother. Um, Brother Jerry Roman. He is a student of Taino culture. He is also a professional wrestler.
Yeah,
So we're
yes,
gonna
sir.
we're gonna we're gonna go into the Taino culture, the Taino information, as well as the professional wrestling. And by the way, his professional wrestler name is
Go Shadow.
Ghost Shadow.
Go
It's that
Shadow.
it's that second part I always forget. Ghost Shadow.
It's said, bro.
I
Go
apologize.
Shadow.
All right. So I previously interviewed the brother a few years back on Facebook Live. Unfortunately, that Facebook account was hacked, and that video is no longer in existence. And so I've always wanted to since then interview the brother. All right. So, uh, brother, if you could give us a backdrop as far as um, first question would be what intrigued you to want to delve into studying Taino culture in the matter which you do?
Uh, that's uh, that's a dope question. That's a deep question. Real quick, my uncle gave me a book, maybe when I was like 12, History of Puerto Rico, Wigginghams, right? The husband and wife. They made a good book about history of Puerto Rico, and in there it spoke about the Tainos, and it was just always kind of a mystery. So
Mhm.
this started my curiosity. Probably like around 10, 11, 12. He gave me that book. Um, and it wasn't never easy to get information, or you couldn't really ask anybody, hey, you know anything about the Tainos? Nobody knew shit. Nobody knew nothing. But everybody kind of knew that Indio blood was in them, and we had some of their ways, right? But I was just always more curious about it. Now I had an aunt who was heavy into Santeria, so I understood African spirituality, and I went to Catholic school, so I understood Catholicism, right? But the Taino was just always like this element that was like kind of like a mystery,
Mhm.
So I wanted to kind of be that guy that you could go to if you wanted
Mhm.
to know about any information on the Tainos. And I just wanted to know as much as I could for myself.
How long have you been studying Taino culture?
Studying Taino culture is like, you know, around that time I tried to look up things. Then you get to like teenage years, maybe 18, 19, 20, and you start looking up things. But I didn't really start seriously researching Taino culture until I was like my early 30s. I'm like 44. I'm 44 now. Probably like early
Oh,
30s.
okay, we're the
Yeah.
same age. I honestly thought you were younger. I thought you were probably about 35, 34.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, my man. Yeah, so not until like the 30s, I was
Mhm.
always interested in the language. What was Arawakan language? You start studying about Tainos, you start connecting them to the Arawaks, and then you start asking, well, what's Arawak and what's that? What that language sound like, right?
Mhm.
Um, then academics will trace names like Boricang to the language of the Arawaks. So just your curiosity grows. Like, who are these ancestors, and how much of them are we? Right?
Um, who, once you began studying Who did you study under anybody particularly, like physically, or was it you just read multiple books, and just did a lot of reference checks and just
Yeah,
did you to
that because nobody knew shit and nobody had anything passed down and nobody had like this secret damn lineage that some dudes are trying to and some ladies are trying to get over these days with. Like everybody else, they learned from books. One of the coolest caciques who kind of kept it realistic was Sibanacan back in the days. And I asked him, like, keep it real, man, where'd you learn this stuff from? Because you see them all dressed up, you know. That was like around 18, 19 when I was dabbling again. But then I kind of like, you get life happens or whatever, so you don't go into a heavy
Mhm,
study. But around like the 18, 19, 20 year olds, there was a Sibanacan, and they had like a place on the Lower East Side, on 4th Street, between like C and B, and they had like this little Taino Nation or whatever.
mhm,
He got the real from books, right? Because we all were just trying to gather information of what those ancestors were about.
mhm.
This new thing with now everybody's them, it's a little delusional to me.
So there's terminologies that are used, such as indigenous or native, Indian, whatever. Um, when using a term that is referring to, I mean, I use the word indigenous. I've actually had
I
some
used
people
to,
say that's incorrect term.
uh,
And what is your perspective on that?
indigenous. You could say native. Either way you look at it, the Cuban, the Dominican, and the Puerto Rican emerged on those islands. They may not be Archiac, right? But they
Mhm,
emerged on those islands. They weren't nowhere else. I think our history has to be respected. Our story doesn't necessarily translate like everybody else's story. And as simple as that, you had three lineages on that island mixing for a long period of time, emerging as a new people. And we are descendants of a few ancestors. So I don't mind anybody dealing with their Taino ancestors. Um, just when they speak for the whole, I'm Boricua, so I'm going to speak for me as a Boricua. When they speak for all the Boricuas, all the Puertorriqueños, that this is our, that's revisionist shit, you know?
can you say that part again? Because on my end, um, it kind of
It was a
went
little rough.
dead. Yeah.
Oh, it was
So,
a little rough.
which
Okay. Oh,
I apologize to people watching, but yeah, you said speaking in reference to Boricuas and Puerto Ricanos, and then on my end it kind of went dead after that, so I didn't
okay.
hear.
For me, when they speak for all Boricuas that we're Taino and we've been living, that's a little problem for me. You know what I mean? As a Boricua, um I'm gonna disagree with that loudly. You know, it's a
Mhm.
little bit of revisionist history going on these days. It's one thing to identify with these ancestors and to use science to kind of pinpoint exactly what percentage we are. I can dig it. I love that. Some of them don't like it. I'm speaking of blood quantum and DNA, things like that right now. We got new science that can tell you exactly how much of it you have. But when you start getting delusional, say that the Puerto Ricans are Tainos, the Tainos. No, we're their descendants. We're also the descendants of West African, Senegalese, Nigerian. We're the descendants of those conquistadors that you don't like so much. You keep forgetting that I could just open these books in history, read the history of Puerto Rico, and see the conquistadors where they went. They didn't go anywhere. We're 8
Yeah.
million now, but we emerged out of like 3,500. What the fuck are we talking about here? Like, listen, This Taino thing is cool until it's not cool.
Mm-hmm. So imagine, based on your statement, which I agree with 100%, I would imagine you catch backlash.
Mm, some weirdos that get fanatical, you know. I just get like Ghost Shadow character on them. That's the joke. That's an inside joke between a lot of people who know me. When they were like, "That Jerry Roman man, he's this, he's that, he's disrespectful, he's this." That was my character because I wasn't taking him serious. You want to play a character? I play a character too, my guy. So you know, maybe I shouldn't have done that, but who cares? I wasn't held to. I didn't feel I needed to be held to any standard by them. I was respectful to those elder Puertorriqueños because that's what they were for the most part. Sibanacan was Dominican though. Um, um, but for the most part, I met nothing but Puerto Ricans doing this thing. And then later, it's like just people in the Antilles started, identifying with it a little bit more. You know, being social with it. Oh yeah, yeah, with the thing. Got those ancestors. But I mostly see Puerto Ricans getting fanatical with it.
Yeah. I haven't seen really until recently. I encountered something on Facebook. It's a Cuban group that's paying homage to the Taino lineage.
You're talking
And
about
I don't know anybody
Francisco Panchito. Look,
in,
in Cuba, there's Francisco Panchito. I don't listen. I never seen DNA tests, but one can't argue this. That man and those people have a little network going on, and they've been kind of living like Indios. They look like us, maybe phenotypically, maybe a little bit more Indio, so maybe they're at higher percentages. And hey, man, if they come back with some A2, B2, C1 haplogroups, who the fuck am I to say uh, or tell them how to identify?
Mhm.
To me, they're Cubans that's been living like an indigenous life because they're still very mixed to me, right?
Mhm.
But today identifies a different thing, and they may feel like, well, we've been living this lifestyle for so long, we kind of feel like this Indio thing, this indigenous thing that you guys are telling us about, yeah, we identify with that. Um, that's their story, you know. The Jibaro, from where I come from, Puerto Rico, Puerto Rican, we know his story. His story is well known.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
And
Um,
for those that don't know, he would always refer to the country.
the country guy, and that was
Yeah.
mostly everybody until like the 1900s, and then people started getting city,
Mhm.
right? And then people started migrating, right, into mainlands and shit. And everybody, we all descend from the Jibaro. Some of them, just took that culture longer, and they're still there. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And some kind of like broke off. They're making moves, but they still know how to do those things. Still know how to fish that way. Still know how to make a pastel. Still, they do these things,
Mhm.
right? Nobody had any like secret knowledge. If anybody had that, it was the Santeros,
Mhm.
and their secret knowledge was West African.
Mhm. Now, as far as the language, okay, I'm curious to know how did you come proficient in the language?
When you study Taino, you start matching the language to the Arawakan culture. So you go right to the Arawakans, right? And you start looking at their dictionaries, and then you start cross-referencing, right?
Mhm.
Now, this is what I did. I started reaching out to these groups, the Garifuna. Now, I fucking realized that there was so many of them in New York. All of a sudden, it was just like a veil, like, it's like 50,000 of them in New York. But you can't, the way
Right.
they move is very interesting. I love them. I love them. The way they move is very interesting.
Mhm.
Um, you could deal with them, talk to them. They're very close to our language because they descend from the mixing with Kalinagos and West Africans, right? They may be in Honduras and Belize and Guatemala and Nicaragua right now, but they were born in St. Vincent, right?
Mhm.
In the Lesser Antilles, so they got like that uh, uh, Kalinago, West African mix going on. And what ended up happening with those guys is they ended up speaking full blown Kalinago. Researchers, linguists find like 4 or 5 African words within the whole dialect. So they ended up speaking full blown a Native American, indigenous, whatever you want to call it, language. And they got it. And they have the language of the Caribbean. They have the only language surviving from the Caribbean. And this is why I study with them. Because they're the only surviving language from the Caribbean. They may not live in Puerto Rico, they may not live in DR, they may not live in Cuba, they may not even live in the Lesser Antilles too much anymore. They still in St. Vincent. You know what I mean? They're still in St. Vincent. Those guys are a little bit higher in the native side when they take DNA tests, but they're cousins. And they got the language, and the Garifuna, they got the language. Taino language ain't around. You know, uh, the community wanted a language, so I started dabbling with trying to show them how Arawak speak. There's certain things that are consistent in those languages. Interestingly enough, it's almost like Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, French, where you dead ass could pick up some shit that they're saying because it's very close. I would say the Arawakan languages tend to be closer in sound than those Romance languages,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what made it a little easier. But still distinct. They're not the same. They have their differences, but just like those Romance languages, they're very similar.
Now, in regards
These
to
days, there's a bunch of languages out.
in regards to the spirituality, when someone's like, I practice Taino spirituality, would you equate that to if somebody says I practice Kemetic spirituality in the sense of Kemet, it's a dead culture, right? Ancient Kemet is dead. The language is dead. The people have even agreed that they really don't know how you would pronounce the word, how it would sound. They can read it, they can write it, but the pronunciation is the thing that is what if, or it's questionable, right? So with Kemetic spirituality, how could one practice a spiritual system that is dead? You have texts. We can understand that they delved and dealt with certain things. However, again, it's not like Ifa, an African tradition that's being practiced in Africa and out of Africa and other places where Africans went, right? So, would that be a comparison to Taino spirituality? Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, I would agree. That's like picking up the Per Heru and yo, I'm a priest now. The Book of the Dead. I picked up the Book of the Dead. I'm a priest now. They don't know anything about Arawaks. They live like Caribbean folk from the Greater Antilles for about 500 years. Um, and that was hybrid. That was island life mixed with whatever was going on with the colonization. Um, yeah, 100%. I don't engage in any of that. When my Taino spirituality is very private and it's not much because we don't know much about them. I'll put it to you like this, man. I have a Lakona teacher, Samantha Thomas, lineage keeper, speaks the language. A mother very very well known for speaking the language and maintaining culture and spirituality. There's a lot of things she doesn't know. So these Tainos know. I asked the Garifuna, Milton Gaethje, very respected in the community, knows his stuff. He'll tell. One time he told me, there's songs that they sing that the elders used to sing, and he couldn't really understand everything. So these Tainos know. So I'm relating to the ones who are actually living that culture, who took that culture, speak these languages, right? And when I compare them, like, yeah, there's things they don't know. How my people think they know all this? And I know where they're getting it from, the books. Like, the claim to be spirituality is just like the way uh, Ramon Panay wrote it. It's like, that's a little silly if you ask me. If you want to take a certain kind of understanding, and let's say Wabansesh is the hurricane, and you want to give energy to the hurricane, okay. Don't think you got Taino spirituality though. You know.
Yeah. So it's good to know I wasn't the only one.
I mean, they're the minority. The thing that they do is try to make this thing like we've been doing this for thousands of years or hundreds of years, and you guys don't know what you. No, you ain't doing that to me. You ain't doing that. You ain't getting away with that. You get put on the hot seat real quick. You know. Our Puerto Rican activists never talked about any of this shit, so that's how we call you out on that.
Good point. So,
A lot of them are cool, and a lot of them are good activists, and a lot of them do work, and I respect them. That's not kind of like I'm not always attacking them, but listen, man. At the end of the day, you're gonna interview me. You ask me about them. Do you have to take that talking to? Because it's just that's their rep with a lot of other Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and Cubans, right, and Jamaicans, right. I'm not bugging. I'm saying very similar things to everybody else.
So, all right. That was really in regards to the Taino subject. Those points were really the ones that I really wanted to hear what you had to say about it, because those are the things that I see on it really just social media,
Yeah.
and
Now
those are the.
with language, listen. I was like, yo, it'd be cool. Everybody got a language. It would be cool if we had a language in the Caribbean that not everybody knew. So I wanted to see if they could handle it. You feel me on this? I wanted to see if they could handle it. They couldn't handle it, bro. Try to teach them. They didn't want it. They wanted it for grants. They wanted it to like perpetrate their little circus show. But they didn't want a language. And that's why they were so quick to jack languages. Just put out books. Just grab somebody else's dictionary, put out books. This is the new language.
Yeah.
Now we got shitty versions of the Taino language. We could have had a cool, modern kind of swag to it. Where we were a little clumsy with it, but we created it and then we refined it later. They didn't want to do that. See, I tested them. You didn't want to do it. All right. You had the chance. Y'all all started fighting for it. What is it? I want it. What is it? I'm fighting for it. Biting and scratching for it. That's what they were doing.
All right, so I do have a question that just came to mind, and I've been very curious about this. What is this argument amongst Boricua of whether you spell it with a Q or a K?
Gives a shit. I was the guy who said if you're gonna deal with it on a Taino way, it's spelled with a K. If you're gonna speak Spanish, you do a C or a Q, right? Depends on what idiom you're dealing with. You know? Mm-hmm. What idiom are you dealing with? What language are you dealing with? If you want to take that to the next, I mean, we got better things to do. I'm going to quote somebody, Haslip Vieira, who gets a bad rap in the Taino community, and I'm not going to give him a bad rap in the Taino community. I don't always agree with this dude. I think he's kind of soft. I think he can be a little sucker sometimes. But he said something real cool to me. He said, instead of dealing with this Taino thing and creating this romance Taino thing, the Puerto Ricans should deal with food, clothing, and shelter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. In regards to the Taino culture and stuff, those were really the things that I wanted to ask you about.
Whatever the Jibaro culture is going to be the leftover of the Taino culture. whatever the Guajiro culture is going to be the leftover remnants of the, Siboney Taino culture. But we all know what that is. We all live that. We all have tios and abuelos and abuelitas. We all had that, and we know what that is. It's hybrid, and this is who we are now. This thing about going back to the Taino. This is who we are now.
Go Shadow.
Oosh, yeah.
Okay, now I grew up watching wrestling. I was more of a NWA,
Me too.
WCW kind of guy, and
Me
then
too.
come ECW. There was only a few characters I really liked when it was WWF, but
I mean, when I was a little kid,
mhm.
yeah. And then you grow up. Once you're 12, you start going, all right. I don't want to watch this. You're not fooling me, guys. Then you watch ANWA, and you're like, hey, I'm not sure. And if you're pretending, I like the way you're doing it. So I used to watch that style.
Mhm. So basically, you growing up and watching wrestling is what led you into wrestling.
Yeah, and watching it on public access. I think I saw like Loki wrestling,
Mhm.
and Loki was like this little Puerto Rican hood ninja, and that's where I get the gimmick hood ninja from. Watching Loki, he
Okay.
was like this little hood ninja, and he was in like Reno, Puerto Rico, and I was like, what's this public access shit? This is in Queens or Brooklyn? I'm going. That's how I
Mm.
got into wrestling. And I went to Arena, Puerto Rico. I think they were in Brooklyn at the time. Yeah, I think they were in Brooklyn. Long time ago.
Who did you? And I mean, it's more than likely I'm not even gonna know the person, but just curious. Who did you train under?
I didn't. Uh, okay. I'm for the most part I'm self-trained, and I would get some help from guys along the way. Did anybody ever train me? No. I've been. I'm not even gonna say mentored. I got bros that give me smart advice, and particularly the ones that probably gave me the best advice. Guys like Homicide, Monster Mac, Loki, Lathon, um, even I will say this, uh, Mike. Yeah, fuck guys, my last name. Mike. Give me a second, Mike. He taught me how to bump properly. He was the guy that taught me how to bump. I had a guy who taught me how to bump. Just ask questions along the way, and then you just kind of learn how to work.
Mhm. Um, in professional wrestling, like I'm familiar with. I don't know if this is the appropriate terms, but like in Mexico they have their
No
style.
worries.
Japan has their style.
Lucha Libre style. Then you have, Japanese. You have Japanese is very uh like strong style, hard hitting, mixed martial art, right? You got the Southern style, guys in the South, and they like to slug it out. They throw a lot of punches. They hit hard, throw a lot of kicks. Northeastern style, they like a lot of fancy, kill the other guy type of moves.
Mhm.
You know, um, there's different styles everywhere.
Got you. Yeah, that's what I was getting to. Like, how many is there an exact number of how many different styles?
Yeah, no. There's like it depends. That's a tricky question because in the independents, depending on what area and what region you're from, the style could evolve from really hardcore bleeding to people who never want to see that shit. Um, I don't know, maybe like 7 or 8 different styles, something like that.
Okay. Okay. Um. So like Vince McMahon, I read, he steps down. I think now he's come back. You know, Eric Bischoff. All
Has
these.
he? Listen, I don't watch any of that shit.
Okay.
That's the
All right.
crazy part. Like
Okay.
he came back. That dude, man. I mean, what are you gonna say about that dude? That motherfucker, Vince McMahon. He's a guy that basically like buried the territories, right? He bought everything out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, before wrestling used to be like this really behind the scenes kind of brotherhood. It came from like circus, carny, right? Carny shit, right? So that's why all their terms and all the terms that we speak in are very carny talk. We call fans marks, you know. We speak in codes, right? That's very carnival, old school kind of like con man kind of talk, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that dude, he kind of like killed that. Territories, I would work one someplace, right? Let's say, where you at right now? You in Florida?
Yeah.
All right, so let's say I work one way here. I'll be a baby face in New York. I might go to Florida for 6 months, 3 months, and work as a heel, as a totally different guy over there. Nobody really knew because TV was different. What that dude did once TV started being like real national or whatever, he just bought up everybody, took everybody's talent, and he became the biggest thing around, you know?
Wow.
He hasn't let go since. That motherfucker's had a serious stronghold.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very interesting dude, Deck, man. I'm a fan and not a fan, but
Gotcha.
in all, I guess I'm a fan.
Mm-hmm. Um, a lot of I noticed a lot of wrestlers at some point, when I watch interviews, they'll talk about, oh, I was out in Japan, right? Um, is that like kind of like going to Japan to wrestle? Is that kind of like a doorway that would get one into, like, say, a WWE?
It's one avenue. It's one avenue. You can go to
Whatever.
tryouts and go to the WWE and bypass all that shit. It's one avenue. I never got asked to go to Japan, and I haven't traveled much. My name kind of ring bells just because I kind of kick ass when I do show up. You know, a lot of people think I've gone back and forth, and I have not. Um, yeah, that's all I have to say to that. A lot of people go back and forth in Japan. I would like to go back and forth in Japan to beat them up. Um, these days, they're okay to me, and I'm very
Is it
competitive.
is it like, if somebody wanted to get into wrestling, right? What would be like the cutoff age?
There's no cutoff age. You go as long as you could go.
Hmm.
In Mexico, they'll start them young, like 16,
Hmm.
15. Um, in the States, guys are wrestling in their 60s and 70s, and even in Mexico in their 60s and 70s, and looking good, especially the Mexicans. Those luchadors, they'll be in
Hmm.
their 60s and still rolling around looking good. They'll be
Wow.
in their 40s and 50s and still looking strong. Yeah, they still got years. 40s and 50s and looking strong. Kick these kids' ass.
Mm.
Got a lot of new styles, new kids. A lot of people shit on the new generation because they're very acrobatical. I like them. They have no psychology. They don't know how to make money. That's cool. It's not cool. That's not cool. They need to learn how to make money. But they got like this crash and smash kind of style that is fun to watch. And I'm not gonna hate on these young kids going hard or whatever. But they do kind of kill certain things in the business. But I think nobody's really caring anymore. There's something we call kayfabe, and that's one of the Carney talks. Um, Kayfabe is basically, you want to keep the illusion, and it's real broken. So the new illusion is try to trick them every now and then to this might be real, this might not be real. So it's always like
Mm.
a roll of the dice now. Before it was set up in a nice way, man, where you always just tricking them. The fans was always the mark. Now we got the smart mark, finds out everything. It's different now. You got to sell it differently now.
I forget what wrestler I heard say this, but I remember when I heard this, I was like, "Yo, that's very true." Like, of course, you're seeing two grown men standing toe to toe, hitting each other in the head, right? So, we know about, well, things I've seen, the razor blades being hit right here, and they get hit, and There's certain things, yes, you can tell that, that's, I don't doubt that they're not touching them. I don't doubt that. At times, of course, you can see they're stomping the foot and they're really not making that contact, right? But you can't fake gravity. That mat is plywood beneath that mat. So that's taking a toll on the body, falling on that mat, hitting the ropes with chains beneath it, jumping off turnbuckles. There's things in it that is definitely physical, definitely real, definitely can hurt somebody. Like when I see dudes jumping off high things and then they're landing on somebody on a table, you can't tell me that doesn't hurt. You cannot tell me what
Well,
he got,
wrestlers
uh-huh.
wrestlers tend to be rough people. We're rough. We like to train. We're rough. We're the kind that'll laugh and elbow you. We're rough. You got to keep up with us. That ring, when people do that, oh, my wrestling's fake. Come in the ring. I slam you once, I fucking knock you out, bro. There's a way to get slammed in that ring. Listen, even if we're cooperating, there's times, the adrenaline comes down and you're tired and then you're getting hit. You do feel like you feel like you're in a fucking fight.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Get a little woozy. Dude hits you hard. You see the lights a little bit. Then you got to continue. That shit ain't easy. We're like actors slash stuntmen, to keep it real.
Yeah.
That's what we are. Actors slash stuntmen. That's what we are. So don't sleep on that. You don't shit on the stuntman. So don't fucking don't shit on us. But step in a wrestling ring. It's fun, but you're gonna see that shit is hurt and it ain't for everybody.
Mm-mm.
I love when people want to step in the wrestling ring. They immediately see, damn, this shit ain't for me. Fuck this shit. I'm gonna be a referee. I'm gonna be a manager.
Is there a particular move that you absolutely do not like to be in because that shit just hurts?
No, I'm
All right.
old school. I don't believe in that.
Okay.
Just be professional about it.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
there a wrestler
These
that
days, every other match, somebody don't want to take something. I'm not gonna say no names, but god damn it, it's way too much. When I came up and because I left wrestling for a long time, I'm back in it just because I'm bored. Life is good, and I want to just kick ass, right? But I was wrestling like from 2001 to like 2006, and um, back then nobody didn't say, "Oh, I'm not taking this." I never heard that ever. These days you hear it every now and then. Everybody's all beat up. It could be that the work level's a little higher and everybody's all beat up, you know.
Mhm.
So I'll put that out there too.
Yeah. So I've again going back to interviews I've seen tends to be that when you hear of Haku, Haku's somebody known like people like outside the ring, like you didn't mess with dude. Are there wrestlers or the stories about people that's just ain't absolutely not rap tight upstairs? Like you would not want to even deal with this person outside the ring on some real shit. Like if you were at a bar or a rest, wherever. Do you know any people like
Well, today is just like yesterday, and there's always shooters in the game, and you don't want to fuck with them. You don't want to fuck with us. I'm not saying I'm gonna kick everybody's ass, but if you don't have some grappling under you, yeah, I'm gonna beat the shit out you. And they keep forgetting that a lot of us are actual grapplers or actual fighters. A lot of us aren't, but a lot of us are. And it's always been like that. Because wrestling, you sell the show. Some guy comes in looking good. He a bodybuilder. If he could just move for 5 minutes, and he's 6 foot fucking four, he's gonna get booked. Then he might make you some money. And then you book somebody like Ghost Shadow, who's not that, but he wows the crowd. And then you got like this complete show. Then you got somebody who's goofy, and then you got this complete show. You know, at the end of the day, you all got to take something. Like, they got to take that. And that's where you see who lasts long. Some guys make a little money, get out. Some guys stay for a long time.
you currently hold a belt, if I'm not mistaken.
I hold I hold the championship in a couple places. Um, and those are cool. That's usually when the company just trusts you and they know that you're not going to do nothing stupid. You're always going to give the crowd a good show. It's always cool to wear a title because that's when the brand feels that you're going to draw money.
Mm.
That's ultimately what it's about.
Have you ever been in a
You want
situation where like there's somebody, a wrestler, and you're like, yo, this dude, this guy, he's a straight punk. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just like I would really fuck him up. Like, are there people like that? You know what I'm saying? But they get the shine, but like I've heard a lot of people say Sting, you know, I've heard a lot of bad things about him. Not like anything like horrendous, but as far as like he's not built like that type thing. I've heard people kind of.
Okay, look, he's not built like that. Is he cool? Right? He has to be a killer. I
Mhm.
mean, he's a showman. Did he treat everybody with respect as big as he is? You know? I can get it. You're competitive and this dude's pussy. I get that.
Okay.
But like, that's if you're gonna do that, go to MMA, go to boxing, go to kickboxing,
Hmm.
you know, fucking go to sumo, go there, go anywhere. But yeah, there's a lot of that. Look, like I said, half of us are shooters, half of us ain't. So there's a lot of punks and there's a lot of dudes who are arrogant. This is the age of spoiled kids. A lot of kids think that they've worked hard. They really haven't, you know,
Hmm.
and they're put on the show because they either do it for free or cheap. And um, so yeah, more so than back in the days. To answer your question, yes, but I don't really sweat it because it's like this kid's from I don't know, it's from Nebraska. I don't know, is he supposed to be a killer? The kid looks good, he's respectful, but they want him as like the new beast mode guy. At home he might he might have like 8 cats, have a bird. You know, there's some kids that I wonder. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Why is this kid getting over? It's not like he's taking pictures with polar bears on a fucking leash. What is it? And sometimes these promoters just have
Hmm.
um, this like listen, in pro wrestling, I don't want to make this a big race thing, but in pro wrestling, when you say pro wrestler, you kind of think of like a white American in tights, blonde hair at
Yeah.
first. So they do want to keep that. They want to keep that. And I see, listen, I ain't mad at that because if you look at wrestling like Puerto Rico, it's all Puerto Ricans. And, it's hard to get in there if you're anything else. Go to Mexico, Puerto Ricans are never good guys in Mexico.
Hmm.
We're always the fucking heel. And when you see us once in a fucking century, you know what I mean? So everybody kind of does that. In America, this is America. They kind of have that image. It's always around that hokey kind of look these days. But there's also something interesting about it. There's a culture behind it, and there's a way it works. You know?
Hmm. Um, one of my favorite wrestlers just retired. Great Muda. Did you ever meet him or?
I never got to meet the great Muda. Like I said, I left wrestling for like 14 years. I probably shouldn't. I missed out on a lot. All my bros got to wrestle the legends that we watched. You know, kind of came back. That's one other reason why I came back to see if I could still hang. And wow, they did that. So if I could wrestle with them, would I've been able to? You know, um, I never met the great Muda. That dude was the man. Of course, I watched him. Um, yeah, that dude was a legend.
Yeah, I like the.
I liked his matches with Sting a lot. I
Oh
remember
yeah,
those matches with Sting.
Halloween Havoc. Like or him spitting the green stuff in your face. That was what got me
That
into
shit was,
Great Muda was the green shit. I was like, that's
I
crazy.
saw that before, and I remember, shit. My grandfather used to watch wrestling. I know I saw that before. Probably with the Great Kabuki somewhere, because my grandfather was a big wrestling fan. So I probably, not noticing you a little kid moving around. I remember that struck like a memory when I saw that. Oh, it was like first time seeing it, but kind of remember. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That shit was
Mm-hmm.
cool to me
Yeah.
to miss. These days, a lot of people are misting. There's a way to do that. I hope that doesn't get played out too much. Is that there's a way to do that?
So what's it like? Kind of, he keeps a capsule in the side of in his cheeks, and then at some point,
From what I've learned, it's all food coloring, and yeah, they'll keep like a little balloon in the cheek. Um, Even if I know that's true, I'm still convinced. So that's how he does it. That
Mhm.
shit works. Somebody do that shit to you in the street, you go, what the fuck? You put a little bit of cayenne pepper in that bitch, you done. Oh shit, the fuck? Yeah, I could believe it. You
Yeah,
know, they
yeah,
even got deep into it. Like the green does a certain kind of mood, the red is a certain kind of mood. One is more irritating, one puts you to sleep. You gotta love it, baby. It's show business.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I've only been to one wrestling match. It was when the Spectrum in Philadelphia was still there, and
Mm.
I was a big Sid Vicious fan. But when he went to WWF, Sid just I ain't like that. But he was there. Flair was there. Tatanka. Those are the only three I remember. Um, I just didn't like. I didn't like what they did with Sid Vicious, and and it kind of always irritated me. It was like he was just, he would always get somebody, but then when he would have that big match, it never went his way, or there was some type of cheating, and I'm like, man, that dude, that
Oh
power,
man, the days of good storylines and pissing the crowd off and making them want to come back.
yeah,
That's all you're describing to me, baby.
and yeah, that's definitely,
These
especially the.
days, you got a lot of fucking retard promoters, man. I'm glad that the companies I work for, I'm very selective with the companies I work for.
Mhm.
Yeah, I could go on the fucking road. I ain't beating my body up to work and get over a lot of these jabronis. The companies I work for, they're all pretty sweet, man, and good guys who are booking and understand wrestling. You know,
Mhm.
there's a lot of goofy shit out there. There's a lot of promoters that just book some goofy shit. They'll be like the groupies. They'll have like some homoerotic thing going on. They'll have like some uh,
Yeah, that gold
my
dust.
fans, fans only crush, and they'll pay this chick $500, but she can't draw. Her match is 4 fucking minutes. It's fucking horrible out here. It's just like really retarded out here.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely changed. And what's it called? AEW. I haven't seen it. I've seen clips.
I, I've seen clips. I've never really watched AEW. They never hollered at me. I haven't hollered at them. But I would like to do it. Looks like an easy place to get over if they let me do my thing.
Mm-hmm.
The wrestlers there, no disrespect to them, I think they're all good. Um, Something about it though, I just don't believe a lot of them. Maybe something on the inside, the way they tell their story, body language wise. I think when you watch a Ghost Shadow match, you know, you're not sure if I'm pissed off. You're not sure if I really don't like that guy, and that's kind of like the body language that I give.
Mm-hmm.
I give a grumpy New Yorker kind of body language in there, and you could see it. And you know,
Mm-hmm.
you look too cooperative out there. AEW, yeah, I'm gonna say it, man. Those guys look a little too cooperative out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's times where we all could look like that. Maybe they need to fix those camera angles or some shit. But I'm watching it, I'm like, you know. They also tend to put kids on TV that they think you want to see. I don't want to see that shit. You know, I want to see him versus this guy. I want to see
Yeah,
that. You know, um, but AEW can't shit on it, man. Put a lot of money in a lot of workers' pockets.
yeah.
I know a lot of my bros who did it were happy and got, they may not have all been treated like kings,
Mm-hmm.
but it'd be like that in show business. The fuck? but they all got paid nicely and got opportunity to get on TV. So I ain't even mad at them. You know how hard it is to get on the E's TV.
Mm.
You know, they put
I'm very disappointed with Steiner Brothers were like my favorite tag team, and I was very disappointed with the Big Papa Pump gimmick and where Scott has gone since. Like when he was just Scott Steiner, to me that was more threatening. You know what I'm saying?
uh-huh.
Than Big Papa Pump, and like I really wish the Steiner brothers would have stayed together. Like that would have never. That's kind of
Of
like
course, because they were so cool, right? They look great. Um, I think Rick didn't want to wrestle no more. I'm not too sure. The Big Papa Pump thing, the reason why I like it, because I get to see wrestling behind the scenes,
okay.
and that's what he's kind of trying to like give to you. Like this is fuck that. Like I'm styling out here on you. I'm on some other shit, you know. So I
Yeah.
could dig it. He's kind of loony, man. I mean, he be cursing on promos, and like I kind of like the loony. The wrestling level, he got older, bro. You know, maybe that's what you're talking about. When he was young, he was just so dynamic. He was that guy who could do everything.
The Frankensteiner, the Tilt-A-Whirl, you
You see, you're
know,
waiting for that. You're waiting for that. He's not gonna do that with Big Papa Pump. Big Papa Pump, he headlocks you, squashes your head like a melon, punches you in the face, and then he camel clutches you, submits you, and that's it. He's getting paid and he ain't doing shit. He ain't taking no bumps, baby. That's how
yeah,
the pros do
yeah. I guess it's kind of like we went there, we done that, and we proved ourselves. You know, we
it. That
don't.
dude's pro to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you seen the movie? I thought it was a really good movie. The one with Mickey Rourke called The Wrestler. Have you ever
The
watched that?
wrestler, no, no. I wasn't into wrestling around. When did that come out? Because I
It
got
came,
back into wrestling like 3 years, and then I just started saturating again. Like, all right, who is everybody? What the fuck's going on? Let me watch old tapes, try to remember old shit.
I want to say it was before 2010 or maybe about 2009, 10, something like that.
Yeah, I
But
wouldn't
it's
have
just
like
showing,
that.
he's just, it's showing the
I do
the
know that it may have been after Jake the Snake.
yeah. It's like it's basically just showing what this guy goes through and how he lives and how he tries to make his money, and he's going through it, and his body is taking punishment, but yet he still goes, and it's showing that aspect inside the the real. I guess that's the reality of wrestling. It's not
Mm.
glitz and glamour. It's
You
like
know what? I'm gonna say this though. Some be- some behind the scenes shit. Even the guys who are grapplers, I noticed they tend to fall off on simple things like stretching. You know, taking care of themselves, getting a fucking massage. You got to do that shit. You know, I've seen a lot of guys just like kind of just not really warm up and they'll go in the ring. Now, look, I'm guilty. The last year I've been popping shit saying like, I haven't even stretched before my shows, right? I got to be careful with that. You can get injured like that. But I see a lot of guys don't stretch, you can get injured like that. You know, wrestling could be hard and easy. You could get into the swing of things and you know what you're gonna do, and you feel like, I got this. But remember, it's tough on you. You know, so what I've seen, a lot of dudes don't take care of themselves. And then they'll blame wrestling.
mhm. So um you discussed about like, when people think of wrestling, the image of a white guy, big white dude with blonde hair, right? Um, is I'm sure it's not every single company, but is it pretty rampant, as far as racism in the wrestling industry?
There's a little, but it's not a lot. It's
Okay.
just listen, man, wrestling, right? It's just that's what it is. What it is. That's fine. No, today they put all kinds of people. It's always kind of been like that, but I would say probably more so now that you see different ethnicities holding titles. uh,
Mm-hmm.
carrying brands. So that shit's out the door. But what I'm saying is, there's a culture to that. We like that. We like the hokey kind of shit. Yeah, he is blonde. He is wet. He's oiled up. The fuck, that shit's gonna give us a good time, and that's a big character in pro wrestling. Along with kind of like the Savage character, the blonde head platinum guy is a character. Fuck that. What? Who got a problem with that? Ric Flair is one of the best guys of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Platinum blonde kind of guy. You saw that. Then you had like guys who come from some place that you wasn't too familiar with, and he was kind of like barbarian like, right? Then you had caveman kind of characters, barbarian characters, you know, um, straight up ethnic characters from Japan, from Australia, you know. We
Mm-hmm.
want that,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I want that. Those characters are dope. I want those hokey characters. I want the platinum blonde character to not go away. I don't want people,
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is, some places, if you're in a place and it's all like, uh, and it's all white guys going over, they're always winning, then that's a little strange, you know. I would say watch out for a company like that. I'm not experiencing anything like that though, you
That's what's
know.
up.
I'm not seeing that anywhere. Um, no, these days, man, especially a lot of the white American kids, they understand. They kind of, whether we realize it or not, they study a lot of the urban culture. Hip hop is all over the world. No matter what, everybody's gonna understand how we speaking today in the hood.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're speaking a dialect from 10, 20 years ago, they're still understanding shit. Um, no, they want to see that. They want some hip hop dude. They want an urban dude. They want a dude from the street. They want a dude who's a dancer. It's one of those Times Square characters could get in the fucking ring too. We want all that. All those gimmicky, racist character. I want that. I don't give a shit about that. You're not gonna have that anymore. I would love to see a racist character and piss everybody the fuck off. You know. I remember when I was coming up in wrestling, there was a dude called Skinhead Ivan. Oh man, we used to love to hate that dude.
Mm-hmm.
He was Puerto Rican and Italian. I think he was a racist character. And that dude was fucking awesome, man. I mean, he just got you hyped. And everybody hated him with a smile because they knew what he
Gotcha.
was doing.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? I want that. I want that shit. Now everybody want to be careful with things.
Mm-hmm.
Eh,
Wrestling was never about that, though.
not really.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about selling to the crowd and selling to the audience, and you got to understand the temperature of your audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has wrestling become soft? Are more sensitive people watching wrestling? No.
Mm. So.
Did they get to dictate what wrestling has done as a culture? America's supposed to be a place where you can say whatever the fuck you want.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Depends on who the promoter is, basically.
Got you. Um, Before we go, um, do you have any upcoming events, whether it's speaking engagements or matches coming up?
For the most part, um, listen, when it comes to anybody from the Caribbean, when they want to speak on Arawakan language,
Mm.
they could hit me up and we could talk about Arawakan language. And there is ways to have your own little dialect if you want to speak around the house and stuff like that. I'm always willing to help like that, but that's on my own time. There's a book out. Two dudes, a brother named Madu and a brother named Prophet Barrero. They put out a book. It was basically similar to what I was gonna do. We all studied together. Now everybody else copied books, so they made the Kalinago dictionary very easy to read for everybody for the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to play with that, why? Because it's a Caribbean language. What everybody else is doing is taking the YU from Venezuela, that group of people that our Arawakan ancestors separated from 2,000 years ago, and they try to put that as Boricaneki, like the language of Puerto Rico. No, it's not. Don't do that, right?
Mm.
Other people try to steal straight up from the Lacono. My Lacono teacher had a little problem with that. What's up with that? Y'all don't even know us. Y'all not giving us no money. We need help, man. The fuck? Just go jack us like that. I studied with the Garifuna. I let the Garifuna know what I was doing. Listen, you guys don't really speak Kalinago. You guys speak Garifuna. You evolve. I want to play with this and kind of evolve from that. And they love that idea, especially brothers like Milton Gaethje, Ruben Reyes. They love that idea, respected the idea. I even reached out to the Lacono, right? Listen, can you help me? And this is what I'm going to do with the language that you teach me. I might use some and place this in my language. This is going to be dominantly of the unspoken Kalinago because we want a language for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Set it up for these guys, man.
Mm-hmm.
And we started giving them language. So I'm willing to do that. I would think their book is the better book. There's other books if you want to play with them, but they sound like shit to me. Real shitty Arawak. No love in it, no energy in it. Don't get it at all. No disrespect to them. That doesn't mean I'm telling them stop dealing with the language. If you want to deal with them and do it good to you, fine. Learn the language. As far as pro wrestling goes, TCW March 25th. Look up the company Titan Championship Wrestling. March 25th, I'll make my debut for the middleweight title against I think another Puerto Rican brother, Ray Calitri, and another Puerto Rican brother, Chris Cage. Both of them are awesome wrestlers. I wrestled with Ray Calitri one time in Project Code, and he did not fuck up. He was crisp. He was a professional. Looked great. I trained with Chris Cage. That dude loves wrestling. One of the best talkers in the fucking business. I wish I had half his talent of his speech. Maybe I would be on the E or AEW. And trains hard. You know. So I can't wait because I'm gonna bust their ass though.
It's that's gonna be in New York, right?
No, that one's gonna be somewhere in Jersey. Not too sure right now. Look it up, guys. TCW. I don't know. I just take the book and I grab the money, and then when it gets close, where I gotta go, that's where I gotta go. But you go look up TCW, guys, and you're gonna have a good time because there's a lot of good workers there. Wrestling's always fun. It's cheap. Don't be cheap. It's cheap. It's a good time for like 15, 20, 25 bucks, 30 bucks. Them Lucha Libre shows, those kids' tickets are $40. Those Lucha Libre shows, the Mexican shows, they be all over the place. And their tickets be 40, 60, 80, 120. I'm like, oh,
Mm.
whoa. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I really hope that your professional wrestling career, whatever it is that you want to aspire in this, and whatever that level is, wherever you want to go, I pray that you get it, man. Because I've watched. I'm
I,
not gonna say I've seen every fight of yours, but I've watched quite a few of your fights over the past few years, and I think you're a phenomenal wrestler.
thank you, love. I appreciate
I
that.
really truthfully do, because I mean, like, I'm not no wrestler. I mean, I wrestled in high school, freshman through senior year, but
Ah, but you
but like,
respect the grind.
but in varsity at that freshman year started.
Yeah.
But as far as professional
Man,
wrestling
you're
goes,
gonna bust the average dude's ass.
oh, I'm gonna tell you that this. I honestly believe that I would prefer ground fighting somebody versus standing. If you know how to ground fight and somebody knows, they're done.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm a grappler at heart. I do have some hands. I do have some kicks.
Yeah.
But I'm a grappler at heart. Listen, man, I'm not a killer out here, but I do train. Love to go to grappling clubs and I fuck around. Train with guys who are better than me. They beat me up. So yeah, I mean, the average dude on the street, they're gonna have a hard time.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. And I think uh, if you put a professional boxer, right, and you put him against any form of ground fighting, I think the ground fighting style is better. That's just my opinion. But overall,
He better knock the guy out, that boxer,
you
which
better
could
not.
happen. But the
'Cause-
thing is, it doesn't really. It
but it's
uh,
individual. It depends on the
we've
individual.
seen what happens. We've recorded it in time since the fucking 90s. We see what happens. They have a hard time. But if they
Look,
hit you,
the
you're done.
Royce Gracie, you know, is my favorite. He's my number one favorite UFC fighter. You know, I mean, he's like the Don Dada. He made it. If it wasn't for the Gracie family, there would be no MMA because they had Gracie Jiu Jitsu. They didn't know what the hell that was. So everybody started, oh, I'm gonna mix this stand up with this ground. You know, so Royce Gracie is proof in the pudding that I mean those guys weren't no slouches in those original UFCs. You know, it's a very superior ground
Yeah,
fight.
we saw all the raw styles go at it, and we saw who had trouble, and we saw who didn't have trouble, right?
Yeah,
And the more grapplers on the scene, it just dominated the scene, and then that scene had to evolve into MMA. So
yeah.
everybody to get there's so many tricks right now. Like when uh I'm starting to get back into like grappling at schools.
Mhm.
Very expensive out here, but the tricks out here are very different. They've evolved, you know. It's not just the armbar, Kimura, Americana, choke. There's so many tricks out here, you know.
Yeah, I saw one recently. I can't remember the fight. I mean, talking this was very recent. It was a foot submission, and that guy couldn't do. And matter of fact, was it Cosma?
I was lucky enough to train at the Gracie School around the time when I finished wrestling. I was training a little bit while I was wrestling back in the days, like 2004, 2003, 2004, 2005. And they
Mhm.
had John Danaher there. If you don't know about that guy, if you check him out, guy's a fucking grappling genius. I'm in class, there's like 60 of us, 50 of us. And, I was lucky to train with a handful of his classes, man, for that. I remember that year, he was training, he was in charge of a lot of classes.
Mhm.
And he was showing us some grappling moves, basic shit. If you got to stay and see where the purple belts and the brown belts and the black belts were training. I wasn't on that level, but I would stay for a little while, see what they were doing, and teaching them like these sneaky leg locks and shit. Yo, man, those will ruin you, bro. The hood ain't ready for that. The hood, you try to make come fight you like this. If you still on that, bro, you better catch up. You know,
Mhm.
this suburban kid will just mop you, thinking you a tough guy. He'll just have his way with you. He treat you like a little kid, like a little girl. Treat you differently, bro.
That's right. And size. I mean, I
And
hope
don't
you.
sleep. Pro wrestlers, man. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe even more so than back in the days. A lot of grapplers because of the MMA. So many people doing MMA. So a lot of grapplers around,
That's a fact.
and they're pretty good wrestlers. They're pretty good wrestlers. They tend to for me, have a rigid kind of way of wrestling, a little too basic. They need to like call on the little kid and the entertainer and the yes, you're the fierce martial artist. Yes, you could probably bust everybody's ass here, including Ghost Shadow. But we need a little bit of entertainment out of you, some like pizzazz out of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other than that, they're pretty solid guys to have on your show. They look good, bring credibility, bring credibility.
Mhm.
Look good.
Yeah. You talking about grappling? I know Dean Malenko just popped in my head. That's another dude I like, man. You
My
know.
favorite wrestlers never talk much. I could dig a good promo. I appreciate it. Don't really care for them, but I could dig them and I understand it. They're good for business. You know what I mean? But my favorite wrestlers didn't say shit, man. My favorite wrestlers are like a super crazy, and that's like when I was really competing. Super crazy, Dean Malenko, guys like that. Those were the guys. I was very into the lucha libre, so I had a lot of. I was into the Negro Casas, Negro Navarro, Grand Apache. You know,
Mm.
Ultimo Dragon. Watching Ultimo Dragon Rey Mysterio probably made me want to wrestle again later when I was in the 18, 19 age and started wrestling. You know, seeing the public access all of that together, it's like, fuck it, I could do this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I will go to that public access. Look at the way these guys look. Ultimo Dragon was like this ill ass dragon outfit.
I
You
forgot
know,
all
it made
about
you
him.
want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would wrestle Demon Licker and Rey Mysterio, and then you would see that little show on public access. Maybe I'll talk to the guys and find out what show that exactly was. But everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's a public access show. Like you watch wrestling on TV, you see the public access show. Shit, yo, I'm going.
Yeah. Well, look, man. It was an honor interviewing you. You're always welcome back on this channel. Um, if you ever want to inbox me, like y'all want to come on, you got some topics you want to talk about, let me know. You know, if,
We didn't touch on the Wabo thing. Maybe we could touch on that next time because they are trying to claim
yeah,
Tahino, which is ridiculous. Listen, but pretty much I'm gonna just nip it in the bud. They're so easy to deal with. They
yes,
talk about the mix thing, Asians coming over, right? It's one of the biggest arguments, right? But they can't show you one study on real integration. And this is how you kill their whole fucking argument. There's so many ways to kill their argument. But they want to hide from the DNA test, so they hide from this. But this is the way people in their right mind kill the argument. There's no evidence of integration as they speak of. We see the integration of native and the Iberian going back 500 years ago, native and the African only going back 500 years ago. So no, you was not here. And if you don't understand integration, too bad. That group is a group that if they don't understand it, they think it's not their place to. Too bad. Catch up with humans. Catch up with us. You know.
bro. There's a lot of outlandish things they talk about, and you know what? Yes, you're gonna.
At
I'm
the end of
gonna.
the day, if they don't have a study of integration showing what they're talking about, I ain't even trying to hear. And we should have that by now. Oh, DNA ain't real. Science. Listen, man, I heard your little critiques on it. I could hear some of them, but no. Let's move on, guys.
You're a bunch of bums. I
It's been
can't be.
beyond debunked, and they
Brother,
tend to be the riffraff amongst us. You
them,
know,
abos and flat earthers, they're just very annoying. Very
just
annoying.
they just tend to be fucking riffraff. In New York, those who are claiming that Aboriginal and even the Moorish thing, I know a lot of cool Moors, and I don't want to disrespect them, but God, there's a lot of Moors that are just out there, out of order. I work in Midtown, man. There's a few homeless ones out there, wilding out. Um, they, we know we can't be cool if you secretly kind of hate me and teach this kind of shit. I've seen what a lot of them teach.
That's how
You
I feel.
know,
That's exactly how I feel.
yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna just say
Because
that. The
they're very.
Moorish brothers that I deal with appear to not feel that way, but I question, do you really feel this way in secret? I hope not. I hope you learn more, and I hope you're just riding with your brothers until they wake up.
I think
Whatever.
it's some passive aggressive behavior. Because on the one hand, if you're gonna say that you're the indigenous people and those that are saying they're indigenous aren't the real indigenous. I mean, because this whole Abo thing comes from the Moors, and it sprouts up 5 to 10 years. I mean,
But they're
I
not
can't.
that. They're not that. They're not that. They're not that. You know, if you talk to, they act like I can't talk to Moroccans who know the
The history of
Amazigh
Morocco is a full.
uh, history,
Yeah,
huh?
I know plenty of Moroccans, and they're the ones I know are familiar with the Moors, and they're like, these are their words. Subhanallah, what are they talking about? Like they're just like, oh, may Allah guide them, because they're all over the place. It's very problematic on different levels. It's very problematic what they
Mm,
talk about. It's just you know
delusional.
I'm hearing. I've heard Abbo say that. I look at it like this: if you're claiming to be an Abbo, you are rewriting European history, indigenous history, African history, and you're also saying everybody's a liar. You know, and it's like they'll make the claims. I've heard them say that Orishas are indigenous, that it came from the Titan, and it's just like, just let alone that you have the amount of Africans that came into the diaspora, and you're going to say that slavery didn't happen. So how do you explain languages like Lukumi is a tradition, it's a spiritual tradition, but it's also a
In
language.
Cuba.
It's also an ethnicity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you explain that? I've heard them say. So I've thrown questions like, okay, so what about the fortresses, the area, the places, the slave castles, the door of no return? I have had some of these retarded people tell me that Africans built them because they did it to deceive people in the West into thinking they were Africans enslaved, knowing that they were really indigenous. So they constructed these fortresses out of deception. And
So
it's
we
like, who
can't
has?
pull up records of the prices of slaves from certain places and how many
No,
were
you can't.
bought. Like,
No,
yo, they
because
think people ain't studying. Just because you suck at studying doesn't mean we're not doing this. We could
I
go
just
into a whole rabbit hole if you keep talking about them. To ignore them these days, you know?
I can't with them, bro. Once I see it, like there was a Boricua sister
I
on my
smashed them for
friend
like 3 years straight.
on my friends list recently. A Boricua sister posted something, and basically she's co-signing that Africa is North America.
Okay, well,
And
Boricuas,
I'm like, bro,
Boricuas, well, mainland Boricua,
no, North America.
North
That
America,
North,
mainland Boricua. We call, all right, we must Boricua, Island
yeah, no, you
Boricua, and then you got the mainland Boricua, right?
okay. So yeah,
You got
like
the island Puerto Rico, got the mainland Boricua, right? The mainland
facts.
Boricua tends to say radical fucking shit. And they tend to be groupie to like Afrocentrism. And yeah, they tend to be goofy to Afrocentrism and they'll co-sign that shit because they don't know nothing about themselves. You know? So, what to do with that?
You know what? That's a great idea. Um, I have like a list of other people I'm going to be interviewing. It's not like no big list. This isn't the Tonight
Yeah.
Show, but um, I would like to interview very soon, and that show is going to be on the Abo Wabos. That's what's going to be on. They're just out of their fucking brain. Like
Yeah.
I think they should be euthanized at this point. Euthanize. Like I just
A
I
lot of
can't.
them just need their ass beat. They're very disrespectful, right? They're the riff-raff out the bunch. They're the riff-raff out the bunch. They're the ones who need a little bit of help.
Yes,
You know.
they need
And the
help.
world, they're not fooling the world. The world's really laughing at them. Have you seen the way the Egyptians kick their ass? Have you seen the way Moroccans kick their ass online? Like these people are kicking their ass scholastically, and they're looking bad, man. Like, yo,
Really bad.
calm that down. You looking bad.
Really
These
bad.
people are not stupid. They know their history. They're hitting them with dates, scholarship, fucking reference points. Da, da. And then the answers they get back is, you're just mad at us. You're mad because we're waking up. Or we will dominate you. Or genetically fuck you off the planet Earth. Like, whoa, what the fuck is this? You got to be
Yeah,
careful. You were raised a certain way. Be careful. Don't start talking like the one who raised you like that. I remember the white boy in America, early America, talked like that. I'm the best. I'm superior. I'll fuck you off. Be careful with that.
there you go.
Don't talk about Latinos. That Wabo community is very racist, very ignorant, and scientifically illiterate. They don't understand what the hell they read. They'll literally post it to you. Ugh. Try to
Yeah.
be nice to them, but it's not. It didn't pay off.
No.
I had to kick their ass for 3 years. The Tainos who hated me will text me, hit me up on Facebook, Instagram every day. Help me. Where's that source that you said this, that, and the third? And I did that for years, bro. It was a hassle. Like, this is not good. This is not good in my life.
Yeah.
Battling on Facebook and Instagram, and in other places.
Oh, you should see Clubhouse. I deactivated my account. It's the second time. It's
Ugh.
insanity on Clubhouse. Imagine a room. You know, you got the stage, you got the mods with the green beans, right? So you might got sometimes between 3 and 7 mods. Why you got all these mods, right? And then they'll invite people on stage, and then the room is congested. Sometimes 100 plus, 200 plus people subscribing to this bullshit. That's not on top of ADOS, FBA rooms.
There's a lot of marks out there, you know, and there's a mark born in wrestling, and in carny, there's a mark born every second. What's happening is a lot about people are getting taken advantage of. I personally feel that the black community, the Afrocentric community, is being attacked with misinformation. But I haven't really inquired too deep into it like that. I know what Puerto Ricans have gone through with misinformation. I've seen what Cubans have gone through with misinformation. Dominicans have gone through misinformation. I'm trying to tell the African American who deals with this, because a lot of African Americans ain't having this dumb shit. You
They're
know,
not.
I feel the majority aren't, but there's like a hard chunk that is. That's undeniable, right? Be careful, guys. Maybe letting yourself be infiltrated by your own and others. Remember what country you live in. Not everybody likes this country, and they'll use anybody. You know, that might be way out there, or maybe not. Just be careful with that, because some of that information is too curious to me. Like, where the fuck did you get that? And why is it always coming in this way? You ever peep that?
Oh yeah, and the thing when you give them sources, oh, that's white man knowledge.
Or even they all got taught a certain way to rebut it. And then you get similar answers all the time. Like,
You get similar
you guys
answers.
all this? Are you guys all followers like this, or what's going on?
It's similar, as well as they themselves will use sources from white people, but for some reason then it's justified as to why they're
That's
doing
what,
it, you know, or then they're going to be taking somebody like an Ivan Van Sertima, you know,
listen, I
talking
use
about,
sources from white people because they were writing things down, and I know for a fact that they were the Wabbles were using sources from white people. This
absolutely,
is why I say they're delusional.
yeah,
What's wrong with using their source? You're gonna let your racism deny you of certain aspects of history, of learning aspects of history and science? Cut it out.
yep. Very much so. So, brother, I want to thank you for coming.
Yeah, we went in on a little bit on
We went a
that.
little bit, and when you come back, this is what I want to talk about: is the abo
Yeah,
wabos, labo dabos.
bring some of them on, man. I want to eat some of their
No,
heads off because listen.
no,
Oh yeah. They're hard to deal with. And
bro.
you know what they
I
do? They're
won't
real
last
creepy. Can I
minutes.
say this?
Uh,
Every time I try to give them, like that handshake or that benefit of the doubt, they always do real creepy, grimy shit. I'm not just talking about reporting you, but just real creepy shit. Twisted words on purpose. Real
yeah,
creepy characters.
yeah,
Certain kind of consciousness tends to gravitate towards that.
yeah.
So I understand why you wouldn't want to have them. But unless they got evidence of any kind of integration of what they're talking about, I don't want to hear no Asians coming over here other than the ones who emerged later to be distinct after, you know, admixing for so long in the Americas that became their own. Those hypergroups are pretty distinct by the Native Americans.
Yeah.
And those abos can't get past that 9-repeat allele, so cut the bullshit. If you really want to get technical, that's a dagger right to the heart.
It's a
They don't got
Chinese
that.
forehead.
they ain't got that.
Nah.
Damn well you're E1, B1A. Damn well you're L1, L2, L3. Cut the shit. We know who you are. What the fuck? Everybody's been mapped.
Yeah. So, bro, I'm gonna keep in touch with you. It was an
Ah,
honor.
brother. Palante. We out of here. Peace, brother.
Peace, brother.
Peace.